Hello, and welcome back to another episode of To Whom It May Concern. I'm your host, Malak, here with your co-hosts, Khuwaila, Inara, and Mariam.
Hey, Sarah.
Welcome back, Modern Skeps fam. It's a new year, and hopefully we hope that the chaos had stayed back in 2020. But unfortunately, these first few weeks of January have showed us differently. We wake up to the news, we have like a coup on Capitol Hill. Trump is banned from Instagram and Twitter. Kim and Kanye are getting a divorce. What is going on? It just seems like we thought we had left everything bad in 2020. But alhamdulillah, here we are kicking off the new year. And it seems like the surprises just keep on coming. But delve into this episode with us as we discuss these surprises, what's to come, and the best that we can hope for as the new year continues, inshallah. So, ladies, how's it been going?
It was funny. So I think it was actually the exact day, that day before the coup or that them storming Capitol Hill happened. I was watching the movie White House Down, and it shows.
Oh my god!
It was playing on TV, so my dad and I were watching it, and it's a good movie in general, but it just shows like all these graphic scenes of like people storming the White House and like all this fire and like explosions and stuff. And then the next day we turn on the news and we see a bunch of white people storming Capitol Hill.
It feels like you're living it.
It really was. My dad even looks at me, he's like, what in the world is going on? Is this the movie or is this real life?
They're like, did someone leave Netflix playing?
Like, we were so confused. And honestly, it took me a few days to process what happened because I couldn't believe that was actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even seeing it on the news as it was playing out, it looked like a movie. Like I couldn't fathom that here we are getting ready at home, like doing whatever we're doing, and this is actually currently happening in Washington. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. You kind of felt a distance from it. And that's why I felt like it was kind of like a movie. Like, no way this is actually happening. Like, this is not the reality that we are in right now. The fact that it was able to happen. Because you would just never imagine, like, the amount of security that you would expect to be there, especially when our Congress people were in session. Like, they were in there deciding an extremely important thing. You would think that there would be mass security surrounding the building.
I think for me, it wasn't so much the fact that there wasn't security in preparation for something like this to happen, because again, this all took us by surprise. So no one really expected something.
But Coco, there was a rally planned to take place.
That's
so
true.
So Trump did announce that there's going to be a rally happening, and he's going to be talking.
Here's the funny thing about all this: our Central Intelligence and the FBI and whatever. They have such good information. You have these white supremacist groups literally saying what they're going to do on social media. Like, they're not even hiding it. And they're like, no, they're not going to do that. You don't even need to wiretap. You don't need to do any of the illegal breaching of our First Amendment rights. Like, you literally just have to read these people's Twitter pages, and you would know that there was something about to go down. And yet you take no active measures to do security.
And even the police officers that were there and the guards and whatnot, they were very compliant with the rioters. Like, thankfully, we don't want people to get hurt, obviously, regardless of what the situation may be. If you can help not hurting people, you should avoid hurting people. But it was just like the distance that they were able to go. Like, they were in Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's office. They were in the room where the congressmen and congress women get together. Like, they were able to get really far before anybody even before they actually came down on them. And their idea of coming down on them was simply telling them, like, you need to leave. And like, there was nothing being enforced in order to ensure that they were actually leaving the premises. There was like people crawling over walls. It was crazy.
And it wasn't that there was no violence. There was. They beat they beat a policeman to death. Like, he was pronounced dead just the other day. So what's really shocking is that there was violence. They did find rifles. They found bombs. So they found all these things, all these threatening measures that are clear acts of domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to pose the question that a lot of, I guess, towards the right side are posing. But should people have the right to be able to come into contact like that with government officials? Like, not necessarily in the rioting, not rioting, not by what they did.
Yeah, you should have the right to storm the Capitol and like, terrorize and kill our officials.
No, but
property. Which is, by the way, like the only charges that these people are like really getting. Trespassing on federal property.
Okay, but from the rioting, did it come out of it that government officials will be held accountable for the actions that they take? Like, not necessarily should they be like, there should be any type of aggression, obviously, but you don't think that the fact that, I don't know.
I feel like it was a threat. What they wanted to do was threaten these officials to make them more afraid for either their life or like their livelihood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I think that is maybe the argument that those people might be making, that like, yeah, now we're holding them accountable because now they're afraid of us.
Well, their reasoning was that they feel like, you know, the election has been stolen, that the system is rigged. We're coming here because we want justice to happen. So this is like their mindset coming in trying to storm because they don't feel like what happened was accurate. They don't think that
here's what I disagree.
Like the fact that they just thought that they could just walk in. If any one of us or anybody from like minority groups ever even like, they would never even imagine to do something like that because they know it would be shot on the spot. Like the type of white privilege that they have, that without a hesitation.
No, but I don't.
Not even that.
Inara, the problem with that argument also is that if that maybe that argument would hold true if there was actually evidence of foul play.
Like, I don't agree with their reasoning. I don't agree with.
But like everybody is complaining, these rioters are complaining that, oh, you've taken our right away. Like, oh, they put this Democratic president in position through foul play. But if there's no solid evidence of foul play, this is the person people elected. Like, you're infringing on other people's right because they elected the president that they wanted and it didn't align with who you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the argument is like completely irrelevant. It makes
like, I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm gonna you guys. Yeah.
That's basically what they're doing. And it's not like the election was so far off. Like, it was a close election, but obviously one candidate had to come out on top. Like,
Biden won by a lot based off election.
Yeah. But like, it had dragged on for days and they like recounted in states. Like, if there was evidence of foul play, maybe that argument would be even relevant, but it's completely not.
But even
that's the problem. There was no evidence
that were taken from that was completely wrong. Like, I don't care who you are, what you were doing. You shouldn't riot the Capitol. Like, when
it would be more understandable if they were actually trying to set up a dictatorship, because that's what it would be.
Yeah.
The election to have someone win or rig the election, then it would be more of a dictatorship. Then I would understand.
No, you don't riot and you don't whatever. You bring it through the legal channels that are correct and appropriate. You don't go for violence and killing people. And even the way it was done, it wasn't done with like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're standing for. This is what we're going to go fight. It was literally like, we're going to go. Yeah, everybody meet up here. Let's go do it.
Well,
like, wrong.
No, it wasn't a part of the plans. I think once Trump said, let's walk to the Capitol, I feel like that's when they decided to like, oh, let's storm. They got close to the Capitol and then it
escalated.
Yeah, it just escalated on the spot. I don't think there was an agenda for them to do this.
I'm sure there was people with an agenda.
Yeah,
ready to storm the Capitol. I feel like it was kind of...
If not the Capitol, they were going to pose some kind of threat some way. Whether it be storming the Capitol or storming the streets or rioting.
Weapons?
I mean, I'm not sure.
I mean, maybe, again, it's usually just a few that ruin it for a majority, or, I mean, even though all of them, I think, in my mind are crazy, but again, there's probably a scale of like how far each person is willing to go.
Yeah. They're so funny. Like when you watch these people, I'm like, they're like streaming it. They're recording themselves. Hi, my name is this, and I'm storming the Capitol. Like very proud. Like, do you not think you're going to get charged for this?
That's back what Mariam was saying, the white privilege. Like they are so immune to ever having any repercussions for their actions.
Yeah, accountability.
That they thought, let's record this and show it to everyone.
There's actually, I don't know if it's still going on around Twitter and Instagram, but people were actually finding out who were in the videos, like by name, and they would post them like, oh, this is a barber in Chicago. He was at the riot. Nobody supported him. Oh, this is a restaurant owner in Chicago, whatever. Like
Also,
don't support them.
stressing.
Which is, yeah, people on the internet can do anything. Like they were finding them, identifying them, and they're saying no more support. Like that's what you get for doing what you
if you're
did.
gonna post your picture on there, and then like if you're proud of what you're doing, we're also gonna hold you accountable. What is crazy is that the things they're getting charged with isn't domestic terrorism. Like not one of those people and their open charges are being charged with the act of terrorism. And coming from, I took a prosecuting and defending terrorism class in law school. And literally, it was even just, this is one case. And I want to describe it to you guys so you see how crazy this is. One man donated to a charity in a different country. On the board was a guy, like on the board of directors of this charity was a guy whose brother may have been linked to a terrorist organization. So therefore, the guy who donated to that charity was sentenced to 15 years in jail. 15 years in jail. And that was the whole line of reasoning. Now you have people actively, we have their picture in the Capitol. They have beat a guard on state grounds and killed him. And you have that guy and he's not.
And destruction of property. They were taking pieces of like Nancy Pelosi's office with them.
Like so far the charges that they're on, and they're like, no, this isn't the official charges yet. We're just trying to get at the low-hanging fruit people to get higher up the ladder. And it's like, no, all of these people can be sentenced to at least a minimum of like 10 years in jail just for domestic terrorism, but you're not going there. Everything they're getting charged with is like a year and a half in prison with bail while they're out, like just so many freedoms that they're given that if you were being charged in any other thing or any minority was being charged of terrorism or these acts, they'd be prosecuted to the full extent of our law. And that's what's crazy.
Yeah, I think what this showed and illustrated or reinforced that like how racist and unjust the justice system is. You know, like it's definitely favoring one side. And I think that definitely shows the type of security, the type of... I'm sorry, Maddie, what was that?
It's not favoritism. There are two tiers of justice here, where white people and people with certain privileges are charged on one scale of justice, and then everybody else is on another tier, like on a different level. It's almost like two different justice systems. They're not integrated together.
So in hindsight of the Capitol being brushed and everything that's been going on, if you turn on the news now, you see all the security that's being sent down around Washington because of our upcoming inauguration, right? So inauguration is Wednesday, where President-elect Biden and his Vice President, Kamala Harris, will be sworn in. And now the precautions that they're taking is crazy. Like Washington literally looks like a war zone at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely understandable, especially with all these people. Like they were, even after that initial protest or whatever you call it, riot storming the Capitol, there's still people saying how they want to go back on Inauguration Day, or they were like threats to all the major cities throughout the United States. So it makes complete sense why they would do such a thing.
And I believe state capitals in every single state are now being protected with immense security, and some of them are even being shut down in preparation. And they have found people that, I believe the other day, they arrested someone for trying to impersonate inauguration personnel. Yeah, and they were found to have like bullets and guns and all this.
Oh my God.
They had weapons and a fake ID to enter the inauguration.
Yeah. And they caught them the other day. So it's not like people are not actively trying. They are.
Honestly, though, when I think about it, I'm not so much worried about Biden and Harris and everyone at the Capitol because they're going to have good security around them. I'm just worried about like us regular folk throughout, like especially minorities throughout the US. Like I really hope no one acts out or like tries to like protest or like do whatever they want in like other cities. You know what I mean? Because there's not going to be security here.
Well, I think the city of Chicago, I mean, I haven't received a message about the inauguration, but for that, after the riots that happened, I received a message from the mayor saying we're taking extra precautions in security happening in the city of Chicago due to what happened out in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, but I hate when they say that
I'm
stuff.
pretty sure the city of Chicago is also going to take
By
precautions.
saying
here.
city of Chicago, they mean they're protecting the rich downtown. Everybody else, fend for yourselves. Because that's
Well, you don't really expect people to target like suburban blocks. No, like it's more likely that if people are trying to garner attention, it's gonna be like the downtown area, like where the rioting took place. It wasn't in like random suburbs. It was more like the town area.
No, she just means the inner city parts of Chicago too.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we saw during the riots earlier. They were
I have-
taking the downtown area, and like the poorer neighborhoods on the outside of downtown weren't really like the National Guard never entered those areas. It was mostly just
Yeah, they
I
were.
wanted to ask you ladies. I was listening to another podcast, and they brought up an interesting conversation regarding whether you would consider what was happening, the looting, the rioting in Chicago, for Black Lives Matter, considered terrorism.
See, but it wasn't like on a federal building.
why? What does that matter? Only if you
Yeah, it
the
doesn't.
government.
No, there is a different level. Like when a federal building is in session, making votes, because you have to look at the definition of
But
terrorism.
she's not saying in comparison to what happened, Mariam. She's just saying generally with the rioting for
in
Black
general,
Lives.
you have to look at what the law defines as terrorism.
I mean, you are inflicting fear throughout the masses. So I guess
Yeah, I don't think it might not be too far off to call it terrorism, honestly.
Is that there's always been an issue with defining terrorism because every single government institution has a different definition of what it is. Like the Department of Justice has a different one. The one of Homeland Security has a different one. Like terrorism isn't defined in one set way that can be applicable to the way words should be defined or the law should be defined.
they probably just use it. They use it to like defend their own argument. So like if someone looks like a terrorist, like if one of us or one of our family members comes in, then they're more likely to use that word versus a white person. Like clearly at Capitol Hill, they didn't call any of them terrorists.
But who gets to define if an act is a terrorist act or not, Mariam?
The government.
The prosecutors.
But okay. Because she was saying like the DEA has an act, Homeland Security, but I just want to know who gets the final say of what an act of terrorism
Who has jurisdiction over that crime
area,
who's persecuting that specific person gets to choose what they're going to charge against them. That's why you see all the time, oh, we made a deal, they're dropping charges, they're doing this. So it depends on really who's charging you with what. And personally, I mean, if you're looking at the very, very basic, where it's saying that terrorism is violence used to drive a certain political aim, then maybe what was happening. But still, in general, like if I was on that jury, I wouldn't.
Yeah, same.
But regardless of what term we want to coin the act with, whether it's BLM in the rioting or it's rioting Capitol Hill, the bottom line is if you're hurting others or if you're instilling fear by like weapons and rioting and whatnot, you should be held accountable for it. Like you should, okay, nobody wants to call it terrorism, that's fine. There should still be repercussions for those things. And it goes both ways, but unfortunately, like Mariam had mentioned, we're a group of people that are held to two very different standards of justice. So, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. We discussed this when we saw BLM. We're discussing it now with the Capitol Hill, and there's just going to be more opportunities, more events in the future that prove that the system is not as fair as it seems. And then social media took it to heart, and Instagram and Twitter, among many other platforms, went ahead and banned Trump.
Pinterest kicked him off too.
And there was like various social media platforms that just didn't allow him to.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think they have? I mean, they have the right because they're private companies and they could do this. But do you think they should? Should they remove based off of what you're saying and ban you from?
Actually, no, that's a very good point that I wanted to stress on because I feel like people are very confused about a lot of things when it comes to freedom of speech, where it's private institutions do not have to be held to the standard of giving you your right to say whatever you want. If you're a private institution, you don't have to be held strictly to the guidelines of the Constitution. So, for instance, you can ban what you want people to say on your platform if I own the platform. Therefore, you can ban whoever you want, including someone who's inciting hateful speech, such as Donald Trump.
So hold on, you just said that if I, let's say, was the owner of Twitter, let's say something ridiculous, like you cannot have anything religious ever on there, even if it's like Eid Mubarak. You're legally allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make sense to me. Like, how are you, just because you're private, meaning you don't abide by the Constitution?
It's as long as they don't hurt you, then they can restrict you from because it's their platform. That's essentially.
I'd assume it's the same idea as private school. Like, you have to abide by some rules and regulations, but you're not held to the same standard as public.
I guess it makes sense because you're signing the terms and conditions and agreements and all that. So, like, that would probably be inclusive in that. Like, you are not allowed to say XYZ. And then
if you don't like it, then you don't have to be on the platform. The reason why it's different is you're the government. You're in this country. It's not like, oh, you don't like that we are telling you to not say what you want. Go to a different country. Go live somewhere else. It's more like Twitter is something that we elect to use. So if we want to use it, we have to follow their guidelines. Just like YouTube, you can't post, certain community guidelines that you have to follow or your video is going to get taken down. It's the same type of concept.
So I agree definitely Twitter, because that's what he was using mainly to like incite everyone. So I definitely believe that Twitter and those like major social media platforms for sure should ban him and just make sure like he doesn't continue to incite people and rev them up. But like the other things like Pinterest or like those other like random ones that they banned,
I would take him off on principle.
It was like a jab. It was just a jab.
That's what I think. It doesn't mean like he was actually using it to further some sort of agenda. It was just kind of like, yeah, what now? We don't.
I was making a statement. Yeah, for sure. But the thing is, before we knew what Donald Trump was saying or thinking, he would write up all his feelings. Now we have no idea what he's planning or plotting. That's not out there. So
the thing is, it's not that we don't know what he's planning or plotting. I feel like this is a way of silencing him. So because this was his main form of communication to the masses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
people are poking fun. Like, the thing is, he could just call a press conference or do like what normal presidents would do, like write out on like.
I don't know how to do that.
From the White House.
Not like a statement or something.
He doesn't even know how to do that. What do you mean?
Why is people doing that for him?
I will give him this. They were looking into the other day. One of his friends walked in with this like elaborate plan to, tell your followers to do this and tell them to take guns and shoot everybody. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So he does have some level.
Oh, don't give him for that.
Okay, he has some level of common sense, common courtesy.
He did shut that down.
I'm pretty sure because he probably thought that was a scheme to get him in jail.
He also posted something about making sure that everything on the 20th, the transition is peaceful and all. And then I was watching one of the late night shows and they said that his comments behind it was like, I don't know if my followers think I'm being weak now. I don't know if I should have said that. So interesting. I don't even know.
I wish he would have honestly, I think everybody knew that as soon as they had recognized Biden to be the next president-elect, that Trump wasn't going to go quietly. Like, nobody knew the extent of what he was trying, but anybody you talked to knew that something was going to happen. Like, everybody had assumed it wasn't going to be easy to just get him out of the White House or to recognize that he hadn't won again or something like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully that was the extent of whatever they had plotted.
I definitely knew something was going to happen. Like from
I
the
did
beginning.
not.
No,
I thought something was going to happen, but storming the Capitol is really drastic.
Okay, yeah.
That's really dramatic.
I thought he was going to be a baby about it somehow, maybe like cry on Twitter or something like that, but I would not have expected like what Malak said this extent.
It's not only insane to think that like Trump or whoever was in charge was able to lead something like this. It's also always mind-boggling to see the masses they can attract by saying this stuff. Like sometimes people just say things and you just let it go, like people have ranted on Twitter, Trump has ranted on Twitter and we just let it go. but like masses were coming out to join, and it's incredible, honestly.
It's because when you truly believe in something, like they truly felt like this entire thing was mishandled, so that's why they felt like we should do this. It's our duty to do this and uphold what they think is the Constitution.
Yeah, it's crazy for me that it was just his rhetoric that they believe in. After all the research has been done, after like they've proven there's no evidence to show that this was rigged, that they still are like, no, there's still something wrong. To blinded.
Honestly, this was very eye-opening in the sense, like, the entire time the news was like, this is like a third world country, this is like a tyranny, dictatorship, all that stuff. And it just shows how, like, we think we're so far removed from things that, like, other people in other countries are facing, but it happened in our country.
Yeah, you would never think. This year and last year with, like, the rioting and looting, and it was definitely, it made me think. Oh, is that Cokes?
It's definitely a wake-up call, which shows that we're not, I don't know, just more connecting to other people of the world, because I feel like Americans, we always feel like we're so much better than the rest of the world. Like, this is a first world country. We are upholding democracy. And like, we just think we're so far removed from things that with the right stressors and can develop anywhere. So like in other countries, they're stressed with other situations that you start developing all these different issues, whether it's political or economical. And with COVID and everything happening now, the same things are just kind of happening. Now we're with this health, with the health issues, and then as well as more economical issues and then political issues, like this stuff happens naturally, and it can happen to anyone in any part of the world with any country.
Do you think moving forward that things are going to become more violent? Like, do you think it's only going to get worse? Do you think these group of people are going to continue to try to overthrow the government and continue to do this? Or do you think it's going to just be a little bit in the beginning and then die down?
I was just going to say, I hope it dies down. I would hope that it dies down. But the response, the weak response that they had on Capitol Hill would not prevent anything from escalating. The way that they just, like, you saw some of the security guards taking pictures with those rioters. They weren't even charged for anything. Like, the charges were such, like, they were pathetic, essentially. And then on top of it, like, they, for the most part, got away with it. So this type of response is not going to prevent further violence if it were to happen.
I agree with Hoyla. I would hope that it would be over, like they got it out of their system. And the truth of the matter is that our president-elect stands and that Biden is going to be sworn in. And you'd hope that, okay, people are upset, but they'll get over it. With the history of the country, you know, just like the Democrats weren't happy with Trump in office, we sacrificed 4 years and we moved on. You just hope that people will wait out the 4 years. And I think if being in 2020 and the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that patience is key. Things don't always happen the way we want it or the way we think it's going to happen, but you just kind of have to sacrifice and move through it and survive it and then make a difference when the opportunity appears, you know?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that if Biden goes through with a lot of things that he was saying on his campaign, that once he does that people will like him more. Like, in general, I feel like the Democrats have this idea that it's like, okay, Biden wasn't the person that we wanted, but it's better than the alternative. So I'm hoping just in general on both sides that if he starts actually implementing the changes he was saying, that everybody will be happier. Like, he was talking about removing the student debt, or at least $10,000 of it. So if he does that, I'd be extremely happy. Like, I wouldn't be mad. Or removing the travel ban, or just getting a move on certain things that we've been waiting for a long time for. So if he actually implements that, I think a lot of people will be happy, and hopefully it will settle down a lot of the arguments that are happening, or just the hate that's happening. It's not even arguments. It's just like one side completely hating or the other side completely hating. Like, I feel like nobody right now is the major issue, is nobody's trying to speak to each other and communicate and find the middle ground that would help us all out.
It's so hard to do that, though.
It really is, though.
It's not even that. It's not like you're disagreeing between my favorite color is blue, yours is red, the middle ground is green, or something like that.
Yeah.
This is like, I believe in 100% it has to be this way. And a lot of it is rooted in hate towards the other, even though they're not aware of it.
Yeah.
Like they have a fear of maybe someone that's Muslim, but they're not aware that the laws that they are enacting are anti-Muslim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where it becomes hard to create this sort of dialogue, because no one, they're in denial, and then two, it's like, how are you going to talk to someone when their beliefs are against your identity?
I know that. I feel like that's one of the things, though, like as hard as it is, we need to get to that root of that issue, because the amount of people that were voting for Trump still, like the fact that the Biden-Trump race was so close that it could have really just relied on any one of the states flipping. Like there's clearly an issue here that's mass and that we need to be addressing and that we need to be communicating. And I feel like just pretending that it doesn't exist, or pretending that, like, I feel like we think integration is happening, but it's not. And because we have this illusion of integration, that we're not taking any steps to actually try to integrate.
You guys, what are your thoughts on the second impeachment?
I mean, I would love for him never be able to run again.
Yeah.
When I initially heard that they wanted to impeach him and there was like a few days left to his presidency, I'm like, is it worth it? Putting all that time and effort for something that's not, if it was just merely for the statement of, oh, he was impeached and convicted, I wasn't too convinced that it was worth putting all that effort in. But then I started hearing how the actual reason is to prevent him from rerunning and getting all like the benefits. Then I was like, okay, actually that makes sense to me.
But sometimes it's also to prove a point that your actions require justice. You have to be held accountable for your actions, no matter the work or effort that it will take. So regardless, this is what you incited, and there should be some sort of accountability. You can't leave office not having some sort of responsibility to this. So sometimes it's about the justice that needs to happen. But my thing is, some people are saying, is it even constitutional to impeach a president after he left office? So there's that conversation happening, whether this could they do this? Is it constitutional to do this, to impeach him after he left office? And he'd be the first one to get impeached after leaving.
Well, because there's no real precedent. It's the precedent that the Supreme Court would find at this time.
I guess my argument for that would be, is it okay to charge someone of some like months to years after they commit a murder, or like commit a crime? We still,
but I feel like impeachment is different. It's not really charging. It's more like removing from this special area. It's not like they're taking his liberties away or that he's going to go to jail. It's just you are being removed from this position and any rights that were given to you because of this position from now, and reaping the benefits of afterwards.
I don't like the fact, so I was searching up, okay, what happens if he does get impeached? Because I'm like, is there consequences where he does get arrested? Like, is he charged for, terrorism and whatnot? And I'm like, other than that, he leaves office, like, there's nothing really that harms him.
Like, unless he, again, is going to be charged. But with that, a president has immunities. Like, a normal state court, a normal federal court isn't going to sit there and take the president and charge him with things. Like, that just never happened before.
So presidents are above the law. Or they make the law.
Above the law, but
no, they're above the law for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But in terms of, that's why when you look at impeachment hearings, they're not done by like a jury of your peers. They're not done by normal judges. It's you are being impeached by the Senate House.
Yeah.
And the House of Representatives too. They choose to charge you.
I don't know. When they say that whole argument of making a statement, let's be honest, people already think what they think of him. He's done all this, so his voters, even if he gets impeached, are not going to think any less of him. And we, people who don't agree with him, already think what we think of him. You know what I mean? So making a statement, you're just kind of preaching to the choir at that point.
Well, you've heard our take on what 2021 has offered thus far. And as the weeks continue and the year continues, because it already feels like we're running through the year, honestly. We're more than halfway done with January. But we can only hope that the lessons that we've learned in 2020, we can carry into 2021, and that the most chaotic part of the year has already passed. But I guess continue to stay vigilant, continue to turn on the news, know what's happening. And the most important thing that we always preach on the Modern Skeptics is to educate yourself. When you hear about something, read about something. Always understand what's going on, to be safe. And thank you again for tuning into yet another episode of To Whom It May Concern. If at whatever time during the video you like something, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. If you don't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you are notified every time we drop a new episode. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Modern Skeps. And like we always say, we're always looking for new hot topics to discuss. You can email us at modernskeptics@gmail.com. Sincerely, The Modern Skeptics. P.S. Don't forget to find the calm in the chaos.